Okay, so the recording has started. Now you remember yesterday we learned about the procedure, the sequences in the procedure, and how the actions can be created. Okay, obviously we have looked into very few actions, but the idea is to get the overall understanding of the process flow, how the process flow happens. All right. So what I done is I have created a sample process flow just to ask you this question. All right. I have taken a screenshot of that procedure. Now you have to tell me what is the sequence of actions happen. Okay. Anyone take up a lead, please, and he or she should go through the together. If I feel I have to ask a question, I will ask others. Okay. Who want to take up this question? I know Perv is on client side, so I cannot ask Perv, definitely. Anyone else?
Sorry, Aniket, can you repeat once? Your voice
So
is.
I have created a procedure for you, okay? Don't worry
Yes.
of what actions I have added. We are going to learn those actions anyways today, okay? But we learned about the sequences of the procedure, how a go-to group changes the sequence of the procedure, what is get back, what happens if we go to the group, and so on. Based on that, can you tell me which is the first step which happens in this procedure, which I have shown you over here?
First of all, going with main group, step number second.
Yeah, correct. Tell me which is the step number. Okay, so this is the first action which will perform. After that,
Uh, at next cell. Uh, After that, step number third.
correct. After that,
PDF. No. Fourth.
correct.
Customer country. Fifth.
Then,
Uh, Six.
then,
Seven.
then,
Group number three. Step number 14.
correct. Then,
Step number 14, group 3, and get back. Wapas. Step number
correct.
8.
Correct. You are absolutely right.
And then go
Keep on
to step
going.
number 9. Step number
Correct.
9. And go to group number 2. Step 18.
Correct.
And get back. I think exit.
No, get back. It is a get back.
Yes, yes,
So after
yes,
10,
get back.
it comes
Uh,
to the next step, which is the step
yes,
after
step
get back.
10. Yes,
Then
step
again, it
10.
goes to the next group. Then it says go
Yes,
to group 1. So it will go to which group? 16, right? So
yes,
this will happen. Again, because of get back, it will again go
yes,
13, and this will be the last step which is executed. And it is a call procedure. So board will go and call this procedure.
yes.
Okay. And the steps under this procedure will be then followed, whatever the steps are. Okay. We don't need to worry about it right now. Okay. Uh, Everyone else clear or have any specific question? Okay, perfect. So yesterday we learned about having the learning the sequence, how the procedures are defined, how to add an action in the procedure, how you can add multiple action and multiple groups and so on. Okay. Oh, sorry. Before going to this, I have a very last question, and make a star mark in your notes or whatever you are maintaining. But I want to put this also on on the record because we are also recording this session. Okay. This is a very recommended practice. Okay. Now take 1 minute, everyone. Let's say I move this group 3 to the top. Now, which action will be run first?
Step number second, and go to
Why?
group because first is group 3.
You are right. Okay, let me add these people. You are right.
Yeah.
So the first group in my procedure is group 3. How you can identify that? Okay, I want you to try this on your own. Create multiple groups. Okay, put a breakpoint at the start of each group. All right, and then run the process. You will immediately see that it is showing me group 3 message because it has gone under group 3. All right. Now, if you haphazardly manage your groups, okay, then there is no way to say which group is it is going. All right. You can name this group anything. Whenever you go here, you can name this group anything. Okay. But board will always go to the first group, what it has. Okay. So as a standard practice, okay, note it down in your notes. This is the most important thing. As a standard practice, always keep a common group name which is at the top, which is the first group. Okay. So name it as main always. You can rename it. Sorry. You can select that. You can rename it. Okay. But always make a practice to keep your first group as main. Okay. It will save your debugging time in a lot of ways when you start building a larger procedures. Okay. With hundreds of steps or so on. All right. Clear. So make sure you always maintain. It is a recommended way. Okay. If you ask me, it's a recommended way to maintain the first group common across all the procedures. Okay. Either you call it as main, which is a default name, or you rename it or called as first or a start group. You can call it anytime. Okay. But by default, when you create a procedure, okay, because the procedure by default has one group called as main, okay, have one group called as main. Doing a rename group, you might forget sometimes or might not work always, okay, from our side. So keep it a practice or keep it a habit of creating the first group as uh, keeping the first group as a main group. So by default, if I create a procedure, it is shown as main. So always make a habit that, okay, even if you have only one thing in that group, so then let's say you call it as group 1, just call a step here as go to group, and let's say go to group 1. Okay. And then start your doing your procedure over here. You can do anything in this group 1, but as a standard, as I said, always make sure that you have a main group. Clear, everyone? Have you noted this point? All right. Now coming to the second most important uh, point within the procedure. All right. Uh, Definitely, we are going to look into all of this one by one. I am taking you through the important ones and which are the basic, which form the basic of the procedure. All right. If you remember, we have learned about something called as selection, isn't it? So when we create a screen, when we create a report, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. When you create a screen, when you uh, want to show some specific area on the screen, we have this selection, screen selection, isn't it? We can select something to show the data of a specific slice of the data itself. So if I go to this report, let's say, you see that the year selection is given as 2021. So I know the entire area or entire report or everything shown in this report is from year 2021. Okay, obviously, if you practically speaking, if you see, business doesn't care about, or rather, after looking at previous year data or max to max previous year data, generally user don't want to see or don't want to look, or it depends on requirement to requirement, but in a way at particular point of time there is some data which user don't want to see on the screen, but they want their stored in board so that they can retrieve it at any point of time. But they only want to see the relevant data on the screen. So whenever I go to any of this report, okay, user wants to see the current year data only. Current year, that means the year of 2021. Okay. Similarly, whenever you are going to uh, run any procedure, you want to run it for a specific year or specific selection or specific set of the data. Okay. In this example, let's say I will select all the months. Okay. So you see, I have data from July onwards. All right. Now I select 21 only. Okay. Now I see there the 21 data has data from Jan to May only. Okay. So what I will do is, just 1 second. Mm, Let me put any random numbers. So I will just export this. All right. And let me put any random number over here is equal to rand between 20 to 300. Okay. And I copied the data and pasted over here and submit it. Okay. Now what I want to run, so let's say this is some numbers which I have input as a working hour, and I want these numbers to be copied from this cube into this cube. Okay. So what I will do, let's say I click on the copy cells. Now what happens? What data it is going to copy? Okay. Because I have selected year 21, I only want to copy the data from year 20. Uh, I want to copy only the data for the respective months into my next queue. Okay. Similarly, whenever you are running any procedure or run any uh, background process, you want to run it for a specific kind of a selection only, because you don't want to impact the other set of the data. All right. For those reasons, I will tell you why it has not copied. So don't worry about it. We are going to learn that. Okay. Just imagine we are going to copy this number from here to here only for this year. So if I go to the previous year 2020, okay, I shouldn't see all the data. All right. It's just a multiplication over here. So anyways, so what I am saying is we want to run or copy the data from the specific year only. Okay. Now, how we can achieve that? So, any procedure can be run for a particular selection. So, for example, if I want, not this one, if I want Let me change this group name to main just for the rest of the conversation. Yeah. So what I want, whenever I run group main, I want to run it for only year 2021. So what I can do, you see a selection or limit or expand your selection filters over here. So I go to the selection, I say select. Happened. I go select and I select the year 2021. Okay. So now what happens? Because my first step is selection of the year 2021, the procedure should run for year 2021 only. But till what time it will run? It will carry forward the same selection on the all the subsequent action until and unless another selection has been provided. Okay. So how this flow of the execution will be? Okay, let me take a screenshot and let's go to our whiteboard. Okay. Now what happens? So on the step number 1, before executing step number 1, I will have the entire selection available for me. Okay. So I will have the entire selection before the step 1 starts. But the moment first step I have included is a year selection. So whatever actions I am going to run after this selection, so this extract cube, what data will be extracted? It will be extracted only for year 2021. Why? Because the selection has been done on a step that. The next step after that, which is export into a PDF. What year data it will export? It will data export the data for year 2021. Okay. Now this two will follow the selection of this item. Now on fourth step, I have selection of the country. Okay. Now I have selection of the country. Now if I go and let me copy this step actually. Now you see the step number. Now I have copied the same procedure. I have copied the same step. One is at step number action number 3. One is at action number 6. As I told you, when the procedure starts, okay, in it gets the selection as it when it goes through the action by action. So at step number 2, what will be the year selection? Can anybody tell me?
2021.
Correct, because the year selection 2021 is given here. And what will be the country selection?
Germany.
Germany.
Again, I am asking a question for step number 3. Before step number 3, do I have any selection on the country?
No.
So what will be the selection of the country here? No selection. That means all the countries are selected. Okay. So the extract cube at step number 3, it will be extracted for year 2021 and all the countries. But the same action which I copied from 3 and put it under 6, what will be the year selection over here? 2021, because it is carried from the process earlier. But it will also have an additional selection of the country Germany. So here the selection of the country will be Germany. And that is how the selection within the procedure works. Okay. So the procedure inherits the selection, action in the action. Okay. You can limit or expand or expand or limit the filters or the selections within the procedure by selecting the procedure or that entity, so that it will limit or expand for that particular filter. Until and unless that selection is changed, okay, board will always carry forward the selection till the next step. Got it? Let's look it with the another example, okay, or with additional examples. So within this procedure, let's say I go and action number 5, I selected year 2020, let's say. Okay. Now the year selection at step number 3 is 2021 and country selection is all. What is the selection at step number 6? Anyone?
2020.
Correct. Why? Because I have now overridden the selection of year from the step 3 in step 5. So the selection here will be 2020. And what is the country selection?
Germany.
Germany.
Correct. It will be carried forward. All right. So that's how your entire procedure selection works. Do you want me to take one more example or it is clear with you?
Maybe just one more.
Okay. Let's
Thank
say
you.
at step number 5, I have a country selection Germany. I have a year selection 2020. Just to give a more stricter example, let me select a month as well here now. What is the current month? Let's say December 2021. Okay. Or rather, let me do a dynamic selection. I go to the dynamic selection. I will select the current date based on the month I select. So it will always select the current month. Okay. Now, how the selection works? Step number 1 will be 2020. So step 3 happen for year 2021 and no country. So for all the countries, it will work. Okay. 3 and 4 will follow the same selection. At 5, I have a selection of Germany and year 2020. But in step number 6, I have again put a selection of December 2021. So what is the selection for step number 7 now? What will be the selection here? Let me ask first the easy question. What is the country selection will be here?
Germany.
Correct, because the country selection has not been changed. Now, what will be the second selection? Will it be at a year 2020 or will it be at a month December 2021, or it will be both year 2020 and December 2021? What is the correct option from these three?
December 21.
December
The second option
21.
you are saying. Anyone have any other option to say? Okay. So you won't find it here, but whenever I ask question, I always ask why. So you can answer the question, even if it is a guess. So why 2021? Can anybody tell me who has answered?
Because in step 6 we have overridden the selection of fifth step.
Exactly, exactly. Because it is the same hierarchy, what has been selection over here, the selection is overridden by this step. Okay, and that's why after this step 6, the step 7 will have the selection of the month. Okay, so perfect. So good answer, good job, guys. Now, this is the second most difficult point which I have seen with the new candidates who goes through the board training and then work on a project. So maintaining a selection within the procedure is really important. You can create any procedure which can run a complex calculation, but if you disturb and you don't control those selections, your procedure will go for a toss and you won't ever get a correct answer for that procedure. Okay, and when you try to debug also, it will give you an issue because you won't be able to grasp the selections given in the procedure. Okay, so whenever you run any procedure, all right, you will see that the procedure will always show what is the current selection you are running that next step for. Okay, now you see for step number 4, it shows the selection of year 2021 only. All right, now if I put a debug at step number 7 and step number 8, all right, and let me just disable it for now. Okay, so before step number 5, because I have selection over here, the selection is shown here. Click on next. You will see the next selection what has been applied. So the selection is changed from year 2021 to year 2020, and a Germany selection is already added. Now the step is before 6 has run. Now after the 6 has run, what is the selection? The selection changes to country Germany and month 2021. Okay, so you all have given a correct answer. And that's how you can manage and test and practice your selections as well. All right. Now, because I said selection is very important, because at some time you might have different logics to be run for different selections, or you need to maintain different selections throughout the procedure. Okay. So to maintain the selections throughout the procedure, okay, you have some additional options. Okay, you can save certain selection at a particular stage so that you can restore to that selection which you have run, so you don't need to remember every time what selection you are going to run. All right, you can reset all the selections or remove all the selections from the procedure so that you can then run for the entire data set. Okay, or you can ask a user to run a selection, so user will select which year to select, all right, or which of the entity to select and run for that selection. Okay, and so on. At one particular time, you can remove the selection on the entire set, or you can also remove the selection on a particular entity or a particular tree as well. All right, and you can do and try these options on your own. Please go through the e-learning to go through this each of the option, because I am not taking each and every example for that. Now I am taking one last example for the selection, and then we will move for the next topic. Okay, as I told to you, we can select any selection at one point of time. So I will call it as entry procedure selection. Okay, and let's say before go after going to one of the group, I restore the selection, entry procedure selection. Okay, cancel. Oh, sorry. say current again. Okay, just for the sake of simplicity, I am removing the unnecessary action. So I will remove this. Okay. What I should remove again. Let me remove this as well. And okay, let me remove one more group just to make things easy. I will remove group 3. So this is one of the simple yet complex example. Remove breakpoints. Now, can any one of you take a lead? And tell me how the selection flow will happen here. Okay. Now pay attention to my marker. Okay. That is the most important part. What is the immediate selection before the step number 2 happens? What is the selection before step number 2? Okay. Anyone?
First of all, selection 2021, and
No,
second is
I am not gone to 2021. Before
okay.
putting a selection 2021 as well, the moment I enter in the procedure, what is the selection?
Selection year 21.
Anyone? Okay. So whenever you enter in a procedure, if you're running that procedure from a background, like what I am running it by clicking on a run button from the procedure window, the selection is the entire selection. So there is no selection applied if I run the procedure from here for the first step, from the beginning of the first step itself. Okay. So when you come to this procedure, the selection will be the entire data set. Okay. There is no inherited selection. But what happens if I have a screen selection on a screen, or let's say year 2020, and I have given a button over there, let's say call as run. When I click on that button, when it comes to the procedure, it doesn't come with the entire data set. It inherits the screen selection from where the procedure has run. So in that case, the selection will be year 2020. Clear, guys? This was the last topic with respect to selection which you have to keep in the mind. All right. Everyone got it?
Yes.
Now I have run this procedure from the background. Now can you tell me what is the selection before the moment it enters the step? So what is the selection at step number 1? Yeah, Shashank. Can you tell me what is the selection at step number 1?
2020, I think. The year which the database have the starting.
No, Shashank, I just explained. If you run it from the background, it doesn't take any selection. It runs for the entire data set. I have written it over here as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And I'm asking the question again. What selection the procedure will start with if I run it from the background, if I run it from here, from this run button?
Yeah, for the whole data.
Correct.
Like,
It will run for the year 2020 if I run it from the screen and the screen has the selection of 2020. Okay. If you run in the background, it will run for the entire data set. Clear? So forget about what you said, starting of the data or something, start of the data. No, it runs for the entire data set if it is run from the background. It comes with the entire data set and then it manipulates the selection within the procedure. Okay. Now, what is the answer to the question? What is the selection if I run from the background? So forget about this now. We are not using this. So now I am running the procedure from the background. What is the selection at step number 1?
Entire data set.
Shashank?
it will be the entire data set.
Correct. Okay. Now Shashank or Nikhil, any one of you, just take it and answer the next question. So before coming to step 2, the entire data set is selected. Now I have selected year 2021. So now what is the selection applied at step number 3?
(2021).
Correct. Now, step number 3, I have selected this selection as the procedure entry selection. Okay. So whenever I am going to restore the selection, all right, my selection will always be restored to year 2021 because that is the only selection I have put over here. All right. We will come to that. Now, what is the next step that will perform?
Step
Four.
number 4.
Correct. And what is the selection before the step number 4? So before step number 4, it carries the same selection, right? But step number 4 is going to change
Yeah.
the selection. So after step number 4, what will be the selection? It will be country Germany. And what is the year?
2020.
2020.
Correct. Now, this is the selection before step number 5 runs. But step number 5 also has a selection. Okay. So what is the selection at which the step number 6 runs? What is the selection here?
Month of December 2021 and country Germany.
Correct. So I will write it here as Germany and December 2021. Now what I said did is I also saved this selection and called this as a base selection. Okay. For my future use. Now I restored this selection over here. So what is the selection at the end of step number 8? I have written it for you. It's all there on the screen.
It will be the same, I think.
Correct, which will be Germany.
And December 2021.
Okay, because we have just saved the selection. Now, what will be the next step after step number 8 performed? What will be the next step?
Go to group
It will
2.
Go to group. After go to group, which will be the next step? You can tell me the step number over here.
15.
Correct.
30.
It goes to the 15. Now, before going to the group 2, what is the selection applied to the procedure? It is Germany
Germany
and December 21.
2021.
Correct. This one. Now, within the procedure, I have restored another selection which is called as procedure entry selection. Okay. Now, for the next step, which is step number 16, what will be the procedure selection, or what will be the selection at
On
that step?
2021.
Who answered the question? Nikhil. Why? Answer is correct.
Because we
I
have
want why.
because we have saved this selection at step
Exactly.
third.
Correct. Absolutely right. Okay. Now, but what happens is after step number 16, I run the step number 17 and I restore the selection to the base selection again. So, what is the selection after step number 17?
Germany, December 2021.
Correct. Now, what will be the next step executed?
It will get back and step number 10 will be executed.
Correct. All right. Now, let's say it's not a restore selection over here. Okay. Let's say it does not over here. Just for a simpler example. Okay. Let's say at step number 10, I am extracting a cube. Okay. Now, at what selection the step number 10 will be executed? What will be the selection at step number 10?
Germany, December 2021.
Now, why? Answer is correct. By the way, why?
Because that is the selection at which we have exited the group 2 and the
No,
same
no, 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 no,
selection.
no, no. Not group 2, the last step of group 2.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
it is the selection at which we have exited group 2 and we will start from that selection only.
No, again, I am correcting you. It is not the selection at which a group 2 is executed. It is the because group 2 may within group 2 I have changed two selections. I have changed this
Yeah.
selection as well. I have changed this selection as well. So at whatever selection the last step of the group 2 has run, it will run for this selection. What if let's say after 17 let's say I had one more step as action 18 and I have put a selection of year 2020. Then now at what selection the step number 10 has run?
Then it will run at year 2020.
And will it run only for year 2020?
In Germany.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So this is how you need to be careful about the selection. The selection always inherited to the next steps until and unless the selection has been expanded or limited. Okay. I hope that is clear. All right.
Yeah.
So what you can do give yourself a quick practice on all of these steps. Okay. What you can do, you can add these steps randomly, all right, and put a debug at every step, or at least at the start or the beginning of the group, or wherever you are using a selection after that and before that. Okay. Then run the procedure and see for at that step what was the selection. So you see the first selection is all. Because I just entered the procedure and I haven't changed any of the procedure. Okay. So the current selection is all. Now I put a next. The next selection is because 2021 is applied, the next selection is 2021. Then put next. Then put next. Okay. This is how you can get your grip on the selections. What I just explained to you now. All right. Now the last example. This is the same example I am going to run. Okay. But this time I am going to run it from a screen. Okay. This time I am going to run it using a button from the screen. This is how you can assign the procedures to the button. Let me see. Okay. ZZ selection final. Okay. And now let me put a selector. I will put it at a year and I will put it at a vertical list. Okay. Now tell you when I run the procedure, what will be the selection now? So now when I run the procedure, the current selection is all. Okay. Because I have not done any selection over here. Now let's say if I select year 2021, 2018, okay, and now I run the button, what will be the first selection? The selection will be 2018 because a procedure inherits the screen selection. Okay. What if I have put a selection of another country over here? Let's say I put a country selection Canada. Now if I run the procedure from the screen, it will inherit the screen selection. So it will inherit the country selection Canada and the year 2018. Okay. All the other next steps you already learned how that follows. Is it clear with you, everyone? I need an answer over here.
Yes.
Okay. Arner, agree? Is it clear with you?
Not sure because yesterday's um, recording are not uploaded yet, so I've missed all the things. Yeah.
Okay, let me do one thing. I will upload the yesterday's and today's recording. You go through
Thank
this. These two steps are really important, and because yesterday's session and today's session we are learning about procedures, how the selections flows within the procedure, and so on. Technically, you will always find it on the e-learning as well, but this is something I just explained to get your concepts clear. Okay, so I will upload
Yes,
it
thank you.
anyways. That should help you in understanding.
Okay,
Others,
great.
you got it right. So that is how uh, you see how the selection flows within the procedure. Okay. Now let me open the PPT and now we are going through each of these actions. All right. Most of these actions are the self explanatory actions. Okay. So on the click of a button, if you want to go to another screen, you use the action of another screen. Go to capsule, another capsule, show message, refresh the screen, print the report, export the screen to Excel, etc. You can do this using these actions. Okay. We learned about the selection action. If you want to apply certain selection, if you want user to select certain selections, you can do that. You can provide a selection based on any cube. So if that cube has a non-zero value, that entity will be selected from that cube and so on. Okay. So these are also the selection actions which are available for you. For additional information, go to help.board.com or go through the e-learning videos. As I said, what I am taking here is a complementary action uh, of the e-learning videos. Okay, because I'm not going to cover, or because rather we don't have time to cover those things in detail because those are already namesake and are taken in the e-learning. Okay, so you can identify all these actions, try figure out all these actions one by one, and of course if you have got any doubt or any uh, uh, and something is not clear with you, you can raise it during our session tomorrow. All right. Mostly tomorrow will be the last session because it depends on how we are closing this topic today, and let's see how that goes out. Okay. Uh, the calculation actions we are going to look in a while. Let's see other actions. There are some actions called as data readers. Okay. Execution flow, we have seen how we can go to group based on if else statement, how we can go to group. how we can call a procedure within the procedure. If you want to stop at some time, you can stop the procedure, wait for some time, and so on. Okay. At any point of time, you can export the data from board into the server using a extract cube, which extract the data saved in a cube. Extract entity will extract the data of codes and description of an entity into a CSV or a text file. Extract tree will extract the entire tree, the entire hierarchy in Excel format. Layout is something you can extract as well, the layouts which we have created on the screen. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry, apologies for that. You can extract all of this into a textual or a CSV format to the server. I ask you to try these actions on your own. There are few things we need to care about, which anyway I am going to show you. Okay. So I told you the data entry can be saved by three points. Okay. What are those? Okay. You can change the number and click on this button or press F9 to save the data input. Okay. So I can do a data input over here. I can click here, or I can do the input, or I can click F9 to save the data input. Or to make my solution more elegant, what I can do is I can give a button over here, call it as save, and action I will put it as save data entry here over here, or I can run a procedure which can just have one action which says save data entry. Okay, and what I can do is I can input some number over here and I just save it, and that number will be saved. Okay, now one of the critical thing, quickly I want to show you ZZ underscore data entry. Let's say I want to input the data after my cube, after button is clicked. So I save data entry, I save changes, I save it. Okay. Now, this is a question for you. Some of you might have done or working on the procedure already or know certain basic concept. All right. I have created a procedure, called as ZZ data entry, which has the save data entry. Now what I will do is I will put up a button over here and I will call this button as save data entry through a procedure. So I will run the procedure and I will run the database procedure, which is a data model procedure. And I will run ZZ data entry. Now I have input 50 over here. Okay. I'm not going to press F9 and click on this button. I am going to click on this button. But I click on this button, you see that nothing is changed. Everything is shown as it is. I click another button and click on save, but nothing is happening. Can anybody tell me what's wrong over here?
Clear cube,
Why?
because already data mentioned in this cube. So
Okay. Let's say for
Not fill
it's an
every month.
incorrect answer, by the
Yeah.
way. Let's say, but for the sake of argument, I clear everything. Okay. And I clear using this save data entry. So you see that there is nothing in this cube now. Okay. Now I input for 60 here and I click on this save. Is the data entry saved? Yes or no?
no.
Why?
A color change.
Okay. Now let's say I am not doing anything. I am just refreshing the screen. But the 60 is shown over here. That means the data entry got saved. Because obviously my procedure says save data entry. So it should save the data entry. Yes. What is missing in this procedure?
Okay.
So the save data entry you will see in this procedure which I had created earlier. The save data entry should be always used in conjunction with the refresh screen. Okay, because until and unless your screen is refreshed, you won't see the correct behavior over here. So let me just add a refresh screen over here. All right, I will do a save. Now I do a data entry of 60 over here. I click on save. The data entry is updated. Earlier also the data entry was happening, but because screen was not refreshing, the number was not shown over here. Clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So a data entry and undo data entry is always used in conjunction with the refresh screen. There are some admin or maintenance action which you can automate. So you can create a procedure which takes up the backup of the database, and then you can schedule that procedure every night, every morning, whenever you want to take a backup. That's what can be taken over here. So those things are pretty straightforward. So you can go and check it yourself. I mean, I cannot, those are self-explanatory, frankly speaking. So I don't see, I don't think I have anything to say there additionally. So you just go to the action, go to the database called as a backup database, provide a path at which you want to give the database. So if you are working for a cloud customer, it should be Z, or let's say some backup folder wherever you want to take a backup, and just save. So whenever you run this procedure, either through backend or through a task scheduler, a board backup will be taken at that particular location. All right. Similarly, if you want to restore certain backup, you can do a restore from this action and so on. Okay. At multiple points of time, you want to extract all your data into a CSV format, and then you want to load the data as well to do some maintenance activity. Sometimes you might need to clear certain entity or normalize the tree from a backend procedure itself. In that case, to extract the data, you use this. To extract all the data into metadata, you need to use these two actions. To extract the entire metadata, you need to use this action, which will be extracted to a default path. But if you want to change the path, you can change the path as well. So extract trees will extract the trees, extract cubes will extract the cubes. Okay. And then you need to reload the trees will reload the trees, and reload the cubes will reload the cubes. Okay. The only important things to be taken care of whenever you are going to reload the trees, make sure you have disabled this checkbox. Okay, this is an advanced feature, so you shouldn't, so practically speaking, don't reload, don't clear the entity until and unless it is important and it was thought through. Okay, so whenever you are doing this entity, you need to make sure that reload all trees should you should have this unchecked, because it will impact your screen selections or the procedure selections. Whenever you are doing a reload cube, you should always have this checkbox. Okay, so that your data should be cleared in the, should not be doubled within your cubes. Okay, entity clear. So let me tell you, the entity clear action through a procedure I have used only 2 times in my entire 6.5 years of career in board. Okay, it is that rarely used. So make sure you don't use until and unless it is absolutely necessary and it has been thought through. So don't use clear entities anyway within your application. Okay. In the project, if you are doing some POC and you quickly want to do something, you can obviously open to do that. But on a project, please refrain using clear entity. Okay. And please uncheck the clear before load for reload all trees. Okay. Make it a star note in your notes, and that's how it is important. All right, what are the next steps? A beam is out of scope for this project. Broadcasting is, I will keep it to you for your self learning. The only mean I can say that, okay, you can actually auto schedule some reports and can be broadcast and sent to a particular email locations. All right. You need certain configuration for that. So please go help yourself, try it out yourself, and let me know if you have any particular question regarding this. You will require some additional licenses as well for broadcasting, so be aware of that. All right. Then the advanced feature are something which you want to exclusively use. Again, this is a very uncommon and very rare things to be used until and unless we have thought through. So this is also something you can go through the videos and let me know if you have any questions about. Uh, this is also very uncommon actions are used, but you can go through the e-learning and learn it yourself. Let me know if you have any questions regarding those. Okay. Now all of these actions are what has been shown over here. Okay. Now the important we learned about. So I will pause for 1 minute. Please read through this slide. Okay, clear? Any doubts in the selections last time, if you think of anything? Okay. Then what are the triggers? It's just an additional advanced feature. Again, you can learn it yourself. So you can actually trigger a procedure by doing a data input and it will be automatically triggered, or it can be triggered through a button, which I had showed you how you can set up it through a button. All right. You can also trigger it through a drill down or a procedure as well. So by clicking on a drill down function, you can actually trigger a procedure rather than doing a drill down. So there are multiple ways we can trigger the procedure. Again, we need to think through about the application, what you are doing, and we can manage that accordingly. But that is anyway advanced part of it. The idea is you should have an idea of the selections and the procedures, how those are running. Okay. Before going into the data flow, which is the final topic of the procedure engineering, and then the final topic of our entire training is the security, where I will put some 10 minutes, and then we can call it a day, and you need to practice these things yourself. Uh, if time uh, run by, then we will connect for some time tomorrow, uh, and we will cover all the remaining topics, the additional topics of sparsity, and let's say any questions regarding to the case study you are developing. Okay. Before going to the procedure, one of the topic which has one of the actions which are pending here, which I haven't taken through, is the data readers. Okay. So what you can do is you can typically create all your data readers to read your master data, transaction data, and you club all your procedures together. All right. And you club all your procedures together, and you can run that procedure either through a click of a button or from a background, so that all these actions are run one by one and your data will be automatically uploaded. So potentially what you can do is, I should have something here. So I have this procedure called as load hierarchies, which runs the SQL data readers one by one. Okay. And in the end, it normalizes the trees as well, so that the normalization also happens. Okay. Now, the SQL data reader is simple. You just need to select SQL data reader and need to just select the data reader which you want to read. Okay. Again, one of the and the only important thing with respect to your procedure is for the data reader is there is a flag which is called as use current selection. Okay. So 95% of time, keep it a practice of checking this box up so that you will run the data reader, run that for a procedure selection what we are doing. Okay. If we are not check this box, then it will run for the entire selection and the whole universe, and your data might get mismatched. Okay. So as a habit, try to make a use current selection. However, before the selection, you can put a selection called as reset all selection or remove all selection, and it will reset everything. So it is anyway one and the same to run it for the entire data set, but always keep it a practice that you run the data reader with a use current selection flag. All right. So you can have a SQL data reader with a use current selection flag. Then you can have an ASCII data reader to add a protocol. You just for ASCII data reader, you just need to put a file path here, okay, so that you can put a corresponding path from where the file is placed and you can read the data. All right. So that was the last topic which I wanted to cover with the data readers. Okay. Now we have covered almost all of the actions within the procedure, but one of the main actions comes with the data flow. What do you mean by data flow? What are the data flow used for? Let's take a break for 10 minutes and connect back sharp at 3 o'clock India time, and then we will start with the data flow topic. All right. Any questions? Okay. So, all right. So let's connect in 10 minutes and we will start with the data flow. Shakti, you can check with Perv for the next 1 hour because that is the important topic. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. All right. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. Let's wait for a couple of minutes.
Даже английский есть, как бы, да?
All right. Welcome back, everyone. One of the last and the most important topics we are going to cover now. It is the topic of a data flow. All right. Let me share my screen. Okay. Now, if someone, any one of you had worked earlier on any of the planning tool or worked on SAP or SQL or have any limited background on the RDBMS working or any ERP working as well. So you know there are multiple sources of data from where you what you can do. You fetch certain amount of data using some programming language, putting some query, etc. All right, and then you can store it at some location and then execute and access that data again. Okay. So the data is always transferred from one place to another. Similarly, what we are also doing, I am recording these sessions, okay, and then I am transferring it session online, and you are then downloading it and you are looking onto that. So the data is always transferring from one place to another. But in the planning world, obviously those transfers or those data has to be meaningful. So we have to have all the checks and balances and need to have understand the entire concept of how that data is getting from one point to another. Okay. So in board, we have a concept of data flow. Okay. As you know, the data flow action is a very simple but very powerful feature of board. Okay. double quotes, bold, underline, simple. Yes, it is simple until and unless you follow the rules and you do a good amount of practice and analysis on your own. Even if you don't do the practice, if you got the concepts correctly, I think it's very simple to understand the data flow. All right. So what is data flow? So data flow action in board is nothing but a very simple and powerful feature of board, which allows you to implement any sophisticated business model. Uh, Sophisticated in the sense could be simpler as well as complex allocation algorithms without using any programming language. Okay. So as I said, and again I stand by my my first statement since the beginning. Board is a programming free tool. There is no programming language used in board. With the use of simple drag and drop blocks and with the use of Excel formulas, you can actually achieve any complex problem. Okay. So for that, data flow is used. The data flow action is an integral component of working with procedure because procedure means sometimes data flow and sometimes data flows means the procedure. Okay. Not 100% times, but most of the times because the data flow is a very important and integral component of any procedure. For example, let me tell you, I have used certain procedures where I have not used a single data flow actions as well. But I have used a procedure where I have used 90% of actions which are data flow actions. So you understand how data flow action is important within when working with the procedure. And what these data flow actions are used for? The data flow actions are used for copying the data from one cube to another. Okay, calculate some output cube for some reporting requirements. Just give me 1 second. Sorry. So the data flow can be used to copy the data from one cube to another cube. A data flow action can be used to calculate the output cube for some reporting analysis and some requirement. Okay. A data flow action is used to clear certain cube because let's say at some point of time we need to clear certain slice of the data which no longer useful or is obsolete. Sometimes we can also text or do a process on text as well as date queue. You remember I have given you an action where we can calculate the date difference or the average delivery days based on the delivery date and the order date. Remember, right? Or we can also work on the text where I can select only the columns, I don't know, which has uh, postal codes which are digit or which are alphanumerical, or I can also get only those phone numbers which ends with 29 or which ends with 3, etc. Okay, so you can work on the textual cubes as well in a procedure. Okay. Now, what are the integral part of the data flow and what are the basics of the data flow? You know, all right. The basics of the data flow. First basic is select the part of the slice of the cube to be calculated. Okay. What does that mean? The data flow action will run for only the slice for which a selection is placed. Okay. So let's take our example. If I come to this example and let's say I create a data flow over here. Okay. So I added a data flow. Without any rule, I'm just putting some random cases over here. So I say, let's say B is equal to A. Okay. I wanted to run this data flow for year 2020 and let's say Germany. So is it a right place to put this data flow? No, because this data flow will run for the selection 2021. Okay. To run it for Germany and 2020, I need to put it into a correct place. Which is the correct place? The correct place is here. Okay. Now this data flow will run for which selection? Year 2020 and country Germany. Okay. So in this way, the data flow procedure always runs for the selection of the procedure. So whenever you run a data flow, that data flow will run for the corresponding procedure. Corresponding selection. Okay. Now I want to ask one question here and then we move with the PPT and the topic. I copy the step. I paste the step. Can anybody tell me at what selection this data flow will run? Data flow 16.
December 21. Sorry, step number 15, base selection. Base selection is Germany and year 2020.
Okay, so you see the base selection is saved in step number 10. Before step number 10, I have a selection of Germany and 2020, but the selection is overwritten by December 21. So the base selection has the selection of what? Germany and 2020, December 2021. So the data flow will run for Germany and December 2021. That's it. Okay. So your answer was half correct, Shakti. So it has to be for both.
Yes.
Okay. So that's how the
Okay.
selections within the procedures are important. Yeah, Arnav, any question?
No. I just say okay. Yeah, I understood.
Okay. Okay. So that is the very important part. All right. That's why we put some time this on selection from yesterday and today. Now, when a data flow runs with certain rules. Okay. So we need to keep in mind those rules while designing any data flow. Okay. We are going to learn this rule one by one, but the 5 basic rules for any data flow to run are: rule number 1, the data flow command always runs in a replace mode. Okay. Number 2, the data flow command adheres to the active selection. Okay. Number 3, functions and reference can be applied only through the source queue. Number 4, before doing any calculation, board aligns all the source queue to the target queue. Okay. There are 4 corollaries for this rule. Those are 4A, which is 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D. Okay, there are 4 corollaries for this rule. We are going to see them one by one with the examples. And the 5th rule is data flow executes the data flow expression on each cells of the target queue within the calculation domain. Okay. What do you mean by calculation domain? What do you mean by target queue? We are going to learn in a minute. Okay, so these are the 5 rules. Take a screenshot of this. Take a printout of this. Put it on the table. You are working on a workstation. You are working. This is what the rules only mean, or keep it your screen, sir. Anyways, I'm joking, but yeah, these are the 5 rules, and that's it. If you practice and you conveniently know all these rules, creating any procedure, trust me, creating any procedure or data flow is very straightforward. It's a very simple step. Okay. Now, let's start with the first rule, right? So again, as I said, what is the definition of the data flow? The definition of the data flow is copying the data from one cube to another, let's say. Flowing the data from one cube to another, as the name suggests. Okay. So the first rule of the data flow, and I have to run it in the full screen mode now because there are additional animations over here. So what is the first rule of the data flow? The first rule of the data flow is the data flow command always runs in a replace mode. Can anyone try to guess what this replace mode is? Where we have heard something about replace mode earlier. Can anybody try to guess? Okay, so the replace mode is so for running any data flow, you need to have first source from where you are copying, and then you need to have a target where you are copying. Okay, the source and the target, these are the two required fields here. In this example, you see this is the source. So this is the source of our data flow, and this is the target of our data flow. Okay, if I move right, data flow works in a replace mode means whatever the data present in the source cube will be automatically cleared and will be copied from a source cube to the target cube. So whatever data is present on your source cube, on your source cube will be copied automatically in the target cube. Before copying, it will clear the target cube. So that's what the source, that's what the replace mode or action means. Okay, we have learned this earlier during our data reader as well. Sorry. Okay. I am going to show you in the procedure in a while itself. Let me complete the theory. How you can configure the data view? You can configure a data view like our layout block, where you see the block as entities or cubes or algorithms. Okay, you drag and drop or add all your data blocks which are required for the procedure, and in the end you will find what should be the target and what should be the source. Now the source could be 1 cube, source could be 2 cubes, source could be 5 cubes, source could be calculation of 5 cubes. So in this expression you can use any Excel formulas. Okay, if you want to find what are the eligible access formula, go to help.board.com. You will find all the eligible Excel formulas over there. If else, and, or, plus, minus, multiply, divide, everything on those Excel formula can be used over here. Okay, clear? Now this is important. I am going to share that with you also at the end of the day today. Okay, very simple. Just follow these points and I will make sure that you are going to excel yourself in this data flows. Okay, what you need to do is create a data model, just call it as data flow, that's it. That data model is only for your practice. Okay, give any year whatever you want to like. See, currently I am giving year. I want to have it at a day level and a quarter level, let's say, and a fiscal year level. Sorry, Indian fiscal year starts with April, so I am just putting it as April. So I will just save. So the data model is created. I will go to the entities. I will create exactly 3 to 4 entities. Okay, not more than that. All right. So I will create one entity, which is the simplest one. So I will use customer. I will call it as cust. I will keep the code width as 2, description width, let's say 30, and I will keep the max item number as 10. I don't want to have any number of combination. Let's look into the small set of data. Don't worry about anything. Okay, I save changes. I click here. Okay, I will add another entity. Next entity is going to be called as city. Okay, it is a customer city, so I will just add here. Again, I will put a code width as, let's say, 5, description as, I don't know, 30. I want to keep only 4 cities or maximum 5 cities in my data view, in my database, so I will keep it at 4. Okay, I will go here, add an entity called as product, call it as a group called as product. Code width is 2, description width is 30, max item number is what? 10. No larger. Create a very small data set. Product group, customer, product, width is 3, description is 30, max item number is 3. Okay, as simple as that. Go on, create one Excel, put a C1, C2, C3, C4. So these are my customers. For the sake of example, I am putting only 3. Then I have 3 products, P1, P2, P3. Okay. Then I will have CT1, CT1, G1. Let's keep it as constant as of now. Okay, simple. copy this action. I am going to go into the content, add member, Control V, save added member, discard. Go to the city. I will add only two. Content, add member, Control V, add members, discard. Products, C1. Okay, clear? So I have created this entity. I will go to the relationships. I will put city on country. I will put product group on product. Save changes. I will go to customer. I will assign different cities to the customer. So C1 belongs to city 1. C2 belongs to city 1. C3 belongs to city 2. Product. I will go to product group. Everything belongs to what? Product 1. So I can use a default product 1. Apply. Analyze. Nothing is remaining. So I am done here. Everybody followed me till this point? Any questions till this point? Just for the sake, keep every data type as double. I will create a cube which is at a customer and product level only. And I'll save it. Plus target cube. Data flow training, I would say rule 1. Okay. We'll create it as double. Copy from existing. Let me call it as rule 1. Okay. So I have created the cubes. Let me call it as R1 source cube and R1 target cube. Okay. Anyways, I am going to share this database with you. Please practice on this database on those rules and trust me, your concept will be cleared easily. Okay. Create a capsule now. Go to the capsules. Create a capsule here now. I will call it as data flow training. Okay, database will be data flow and I will click OK. Okay. Now I will create one more screen here called as rule 1. Okay. Create a data view over here. Configure the data view and put a source cube over here. Enable the data entry. Everyone is following me, right? Any questions so far? Hello. Hello. Everyone is following me? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I go to this data flow. I will call it as a target queue. Okay. And what I am going to do, I'm going to go to the procedures. And I am going to create first procedure, which is called as rule 1. And how I can add the data flow action? I will add here. I go to the data reader action and data flow action. I configure the layout. I bring everything what I needed here. So I just add over here, add over here. So as a standard practice, keep your, or a recommended practice, I would say, keep your target cube in the last. First drag all your source cube and then bring your target cube in the last and save. So these are your layouts. So what I want to do is I want to flow the data from A to the data in B. So I will create target as B and create data flow as A. Okay. Forget about any other things as of now. Okay. Forget about time set and data calculation domain. We are going to learn in the end. Okay. Keep everything default and click on save. And always remember refresh screen, because then only the data on the screen gets refreshed. Okay. I go to the capsule. I pull up a button over here. Okay. The button is called as rule 1. Run procedure. Rule 1. Save. Now, when I copy on rule 1, the data from source cube is copied into data from in the target cube. Okay. So when I click here, everything from here, because I don't have any selection. Okay. Everything from here is copied to the everything from here. Okay. Now, let's say I had some numbers over here. Let's put only 3-4 numbers. Okay. Now, what the rule 1 says, I copy the data. Rule 1 says the data is copied from a source cube to a target cube in a replace mode. Okay. So you see the data is copied from here to here and the total is 131. Okay. Let's say, for example, I had some number over here, and I had some number over here. Okay. So the data in my target cube, the total is 200, and the data in my source cube, the total is 131. Okay. Now, when I click on 1, the data is copied from cube, source cube to the target cube. So what is the total I should expect here in the target cube? Anyone?
331.
Anyone has other answer?
131.
Okay. Anyone would like to answer anything else?
321.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Shashank. Your
Will
answer?
it remain same? Like 200?
Okay. So you see that we have got all the expected answers. What could be the solution over there? Okay. Again, go back to the rule number 1. What rule number 1 says? The data flow runs in a replace mode. What does that mean? The data from the source cube, look into this carefully. The data from the source cube is copied in the data into the target cube. So if I had some data present in a target cube, that data will be wiped off and the data from the source cube is copied in the data in the target cube. So now if I run this procedure, okay, the 200 will be cleared. So the first action is, so the source cube will be, the target cube will be cleared and the data from the source cube is copied under the data in the target cube. Okay, so you see the total in the target cube is 131. Okay, so whatever the data is present in the source cube, we don't care. In the sense, it will be replaced by whatever present in the source cube. Again, now the data was 191. I click on rule 1. Okay, the data flow runs and it copies the data from the source cube into data into target cube. Everyone clear here? Any doubt? Hello, please answer. We can take
Yes.
however time we can take, but I want to make sure that you got this concepts correctly. Okay, so now again, the last question for this. Now my source cube has data as 150, my target cube has data as 131. Now if I click on the if I run the data flow, what would be the total I expect here?
150.
150.
Anyone has any other different answer in mind? Good. Okay. So the rule one says the data in the target queue will be cleared and it will be replaced by the data in the source queue. So the source queue data will be flow into target queue. Any question over here? Okay, perfect. Now this forms our base, and now our next rules, you will find it how we can do it. Okay, can I expect one thing from you as a practice? I am going to share this database and capsule with you. Okay, and I want every one of you to run multiple permutation combination on all of these rules. All right, and as an exercise, send the database to me by the end of the day tomorrow, or anyone wants to work on Saturday, Sundays, send me the database, whatever you worked on by Monday. Okay. So that I know who has run the calculations and who has practiced the data flow. All right. Just give me your these 2-3 days. I will make sure that you all have got the data flow concept correctly. Okay. But it involves
Okay.
your dedication and your time as well. So I can teach anything, but until unless you practice, you won't get the concept thoroughly. Okay, because you learn the concept in details when you identify the issues and problems when you start working on it. All right, now what else we need to do? We need to learn the next rule. Okay, for the next rule, I will have the new button. I will have the new cubes because I don't want to practice on the same cube. it it gives you also to think on, and because I'm going to share this database with you, you also need to practice on your own as well. Okay, so I will create another cube. I will call it as R2 source. I will put it into group of rule 2, and oh sorry, first I need to copy and then I need to change the name. I will keep the dimension as it is as of now. Okay, let's try to keep the things simple. Okay, I will change the block over here. Change the block here. And now you see procedures can also be saved as. So I will just click here. I will save as the procedure. I will call it as rule 2. I will click OK. And I will just edit the rule 2 procedure. I just need to edit out the cube. So I will replace source by R2 source, target by R2 target, and it will be same algorithm B equal to A. Let's try to keep things simple. All right. Now, what does the rule 2 says? Okay. There is one exception in rule 1, which is dynamic offset. As I said, that is the calculation domain. After calculation domain, we have some dynamic offset. It is also one of the good feature, but let's keep it out of our confusion as of now because it unnecessarily creates the confusion. Just remember that a dynamic offset can be used to offset your numbers or to offset your payment. So it is used in terms of a payment term calculation or some cases in financial consolidation or in some calculation of some deliveries which are done on the base of number of days where you have to use the offset. Okay, so let's keep it as of out of scope for now. Anyway, if you have a question, you can definitely ask me, but let us consider on the rules immediately first. Okay, so what the second rule of the data flow says. Okay, so earlier you say we copied the whole data from one cube to another cube. What if we need to copy only one line or one slice or only one cell from one cube to another cube? Okay. So what does that mean? The data flow command always adheres to the active selection. The active selection means whatever the selections are done before that step. We already have seen that example, isn't it? Okay. So the data flow command always adheres to the active selection. Okay. Also that means the data cube align and the data clear cube clear function also adheres to the active selection. And the active selection influence only the cube that have the dimensions in which the selection is made. So for example, you have a year dimension in your procedure, but your cube doesn't have the year dimension. That means there is nothing to influence, isn't it? So the active selection influences only the cubes that have the dimensions on which the selection is made. It could be a source cube or it could be a target cube. Let me give you one example. What I want to do is I have a source data where I have data for 5 years, but I have to put only 2020 data from source cube to the target cube. Okay, so how I will do? As a procedure, I will first do a selection. So selection applies across the source and the target. The moment I put a selection of 2020, the same selection will be applied onto the source cube and the same selection will be applied on a target cube. Okay, because all the cubes follow the same adheres to the active selection. So if you have 5 cubes as your source, every cube will be selected for year 2020. Okay, then what the data flow does is, then it copies that slice of the data and replaces it with the slice from the source cube. So whatever the earlier data was present in cube in this target cube for 2020, that will be cleared and the 2020 data from the source cube will be flown into a target cube. Clear? Anybody wants me to explain it again? Perfect. Let's try and work it out onto the procedure itself. All right. Now, I am into the procedure. Okay. My source cube, let's say, has some action here. Okay. Now, when I run a data flow, in my procedure rule 2, there is no selection applied on the procedure. Okay. Now, when I run this procedure, what should be the output I expect over here? Anyone? Sorry, Nikhil, we couldn't hear you. I thought you unmuted yourself.
64.
Correct? Correct. So if I click on rule 2, the source cube will be copied into the target cube. Oh, sorry, 1 second. See, so until and unless you practice, you won't understand what is happening. So the rule 2, the name of the button says rule 2, but because I have saved as the button, the procedure is still, the button is still linked to rule 1. So I need to change that. Okay. So the more you do the practice, you will understand the issues like this. So I click on rule 2, the data will be copied from here to here, 64. Okay. Now let's say I already had some data over here. Now the procedure is same. I haven't changed anything in the procedure. Now if I click on the rule 2, what should be the output over here? Anyone?
Same 64.
Exactly, because it copies the entire cube from here because there is no selection in the procedure. So if I click on rule 2, it copies the 64 from here to 64 from here. Clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Now let's say I want to copy the data only for one customer. Okay. So I just select one customer, which is C1. Okay. Now my procedure has a selection on one slice of a data, which is customer C1. Okay. Okay, correct. And my source cube has data here like this. Okay. Now, and let me put some data. Sorry. So let me put some data over here as 50. Right. Now my source cube has this data and the total is 150. My target cube has this data and the total is 64. Now my procedure is run to copy the data for only customer C1. Now if I run this procedure, what should be the output data I expect over here?
48.
Okay. Who says 48? Shakti. Anyone else? Any other answer? Shashank?
150.
Okay. Any other answer?
No, sorry, it will be, I think, 100.
Okay. Hold your thought. Shashank? Shashank says so. Shashank says 100. Shakti says how much?
48.
48. Any other answer?
Uh, 114.
Okay. Sorry, Pratik. Can you? It's a very unexpected answer. Can you tell me how did you arrive on that?
The data from C3 will be copied from source to so from target to source. So 50 will be copied.
Okay. Just for your understanding, the selection is only on C1 and not on C3.
Sorry.
Yeah. In that case, would you like to change your answer and tell me what could be the answer?
Then we'll add 64 plus 36.
Exactly. So when I run the rule 2, you will see that only this C1 means this whole column will be copied over here. Okay. And nothing is changed for other column because my procedure has a selection of only C1. Okay. Now, if I have put here, I don't know, 50. Okay. Even if my source cube has some other numbers as well or in other cells. Okay. Only this slice, only the C1 will be copied here. All the other slices will be intact. Okay. Let me take a screenshot of this. Now I run the rule 2. Only this 98 is copied over here. The other things were as it is. So you see that only this 98 has been copied over here. Correct? Other things are intact, which is 48 and 4. So what does that mean? The data flow adheres to the active selection. Okay. What if my procedure has two selections? So one is selection C1. I will put another selection as selection P1.
Is it correct my answer or not? Still I'm confused.
Sorry, who has asked the question? No, Shakti, your answer was incorrect.
Okay.
I am explaining the same thing. You copy only that slice. So what your answer shows, you said 48. In that case, this 2 should also have been 0. Then only
Okay.
your answer of 48 would have been correct.
Okay.
But my cube has other values in other slices. So the answer was given by Pratik and Shashank was correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Now I have put a selection of I have put this selection. Okay. And I will put it as now when I run this rule 2, what should be the total I expect over here? And which is the cell impacted over here? If you want, I will create a screenshot for you for the procedure so that it's easy for you to see as well. Yeah. Now if I run rule 2, what is the expected total over here and which are the cell impacted over here? Is it 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell? Yeah, Pratik, what is your answer?
Total will be 163 and the
Why?
impacted
Correct. And the impacted cells are what?
C1, P1.
And why?
Because of the selection first
Correct.
customer
Because of
C1
the
is
selection here. Exactly. Okay. So if I run this data flow, all the other values will be intact in the target queue. Only this one cell is going to copy from over here to over here and the total will change to 163. Everybody got the second rule of the data flow. Okay. Now what I want or what I expect from you is you calculate and you go through the rules of the data flow from e-learning. Okay. Practice this all rules all by yourself today and tomorrow morning. Anyway, there are only 10 minutes left, so there is no point going into the next rules. I would keep it to you to practice to complete those 3 rules from the e-learning and start doing your practice. Okay. I want all of you to do the practice at this level of granularity. Okay. And tomorrow ask me the question and show me the data flow and the practice you have done on this data flow and capsule. Okay. Any doubts, any questions? We are leaving early today because in 10 minutes we cannot cover the next rule. I would at least need 20 to 30 minutes and I have another call starting in 10 minutes. So we have to leave early and we will take the remaining rules tomorrow. So tomorrow we definitely will meet. Any questions? Anything? We have 10 minutes. If you want, we can discuss anything else.